This video is about an incident that happened at Red River Family Practice, where I used to see Dr. J. Eric Lambeth, and also Dr. Cynthia Brinson. And in this case, the incident happened while I was seeing Dr. Lambeth on 6/30/2017. And this is in regards to Austin case number 18-800-2270. And the reason why I filed that in 2018 is because the original case on my Gangstalking terrorism, the big case, the very big case, that case number is 17 APD or Austin Police Department case number 17800-1766. And hey, Max. And I wasn't getting a response from Detective Joseph Fernandez on that at all. He wouldn't even call me back. And so I thought, well, on these individual crimes that were part of this whole nonsense, I'm going to file individual police reports the following year. And so that's why it has a 2018 case. This case in particular, on the assault, the detective is Brandon Sheffy. And I have emailed him over 100 times, I think about 150 times on this case. And I had also been emailing detective and calling Detective Joseph Fernandez. And in the description, you can see where you can see my communications log with them, or link to the document as the communications log. And not one of them has given me a phone call back or responded via email. And the sad thing about this is that the suspects in this case, the ladies involved at Red River Family Practice, actually confessed to Dr. Lambeth and or the office manager there, or whoever the boss is there. So here's the story about what happened. So this is while I was at the Grove, I lived at the Grove from February of 2017 to July of 2017. And during the time around June, or around that time, before my visit on June 30th to the Red River Family Practice 2017, the voices that we've already determined, or I've already determined was not schizophrenia, had been starting to tell me details about past visits to Red River Family Practice, in particular, visits that happened while I saw Cynthia Brinson over 10 years ago, and long before these people were in my life. And I was like, how would they know that? Because there were details about visits that like no one would know about. I wouldn't have told anyone. They weren't that big of a deal, but it wasn't something I would share with anyone. And like they dropped pieces of information from past visits. And when they did that, and they would tease me with it, they would say, how would we know that? You must be schizophrenic, because like no one would know that. So we must not be rude people. You must have schizophrenia. And they like to do this back and forth on other things as well. But they also like to prove that they weren't schizophrenia by doing things like telling me things that weren't in my brain, either as suspicion or as fact, and that I later determined to be true. And so I don't have supernatural abilities to do that. So they do that all the time. They either read license plates off that I don't see, or they read ahead in a book, even when the print's on the other side of the page, or they describe people or what people are doing that are not within my field of vision yet. And then I find that out very soon afterwards, usually within seconds or within a minute. And they've done other demonstrations as well. Plus, with all the pain and stuff, when witnesses and other victims, I pretty much know that they weren't schizophrenia for a very long time, but I still questioned it all the time, aided by them as well, constantly questioning it in my head for me. Not that I wasn't doing that already by myself. So I was like, how would they know this information from visits to Red River Family Practice. And I've been going to see Dr. Lambeth for like 17 years. And Dr. Cynthia Brinson is an HIV specialist. And when I became HIV positive, I think in 2006, she just happened to be working at the same clinic or practice as Dr. Lambeth. So I sort of got two primary doctors there, and she was my specialist. But HIV now is so easily maintained, you can just see your primary doctor for it pretty much. So I just saw whichever one was available usually. And I would go through phases of who I saw, and in particular on June 30th, I went to see Dr. Lambeth because I was paying out of pocket. He was cheaper anyway, and Dr. Cynthia Brinson was part-time. She actually worked in the jail, so when I was in jail, I actually got to see my other doctor that I used to see at Red River Family Practice when I was in jail, which was kind of neat, but it wasn't good being there. But that was interesting that my other doctor from Red River actually was in the jail, and I think she works there full time now. I think she's left Red River. Or she's doing something else part-time. But when June 30th happened, I it was a Saturday, and I went to see the doctor to go over some lab results. In particular, I wanted to see the results of a cancer screening, the blood test, to see if there were any signs of cancer in your blood. And that was just, because when this shit was going on, I was like, well, maybe there was something medical going on, even though I knew it wasn't medical, but I still wanted to rule that out. My mom had cancer. And I was also worried about getting cancer because I did my genes with 23andMe, and I believe something came back with them or another service that said you don't have the propensity to get cancer more easily than other people, but you might have the propensity that once you get cancer, it may spread more rapidly. And that may have been what happened with my mom after she got lung cancer. It just spread to the brain pretty rapidly. And she died from not the cancer, but from her body fighting the cancer or something like that. So I wanted to rule that out anyway. And he had forgotten to do that test. And Dr. Lambeth had been in a fog, and I had seen him one or two times before then. And he just he didn't seem to be himself, especially that day. That day he seemed to be almost hungover. He didn't seem present. I asked him why when I had asked for cancer screening before and he was supposed to run that test, he gave me this little sheet of paper to call an imaging service to have a scan of my body done, not for cancer, but for calcium screening. And I was like, why would you give me that? And he said, I don't know, maybe because it's CA. They both start with CA. And I didn't really buy it. I didn't really buy it at the time, but I think he was a victim now because since that incident, they have zapped my head in a certain way that really causes it to lose function, for your brain to lose function, and you really can't think of things, even simple things. Like one time when I was in Maynard, they did that, and for a second, I couldn't think of where I was. I knew I was at Alan's house or Tim's house, but I didn't know where in Austin I was, and I wasn't in Austin. I was in Maynard. And they put that in my head. They were like, "Where are you?" Where? And I was like, "What area of town am I in now?" And I was like, "Wait, I'm not in Austin anymore." It really and I wasn't on anything. I wasn't sleep deprived at the time. I was, and then it went away pretty quickly. And I was like, "Whoa!" It was kind of like doing a disassociative. If you've ever done this, if you've ever done a whippet when you're younger. Or I guess what I've heard people describe a K-hole being from ketamine. I've never been in a K-hole before. I tried ketamine once. I didn't get anything from it, and I didn't try it again. Or if you've ever done maximum impact, or any type of disassociative where your mind kind of drifts off somewhere. I guess kind of like Kenny on South Park. But I don't really like that feeling. Oh, salvia. If you've ever done a stronger salvia thing. That's a disassociative. They can cause that sensation. They can zap your brain in a certain way that you really can't think, and your mind's in a fog, and it's almost like a disassociative effect, or it's exactly like that, and without any sort of high feeling necessarily. But they can also mimic a high feeling too from uppers. But I'm taking the time to talk about that now. Before I describe this incident, because I believe Dr. Lambeth is a victim as well. I suspected when he was dropping buzzwords like infrared, and I'll do another different video on that. But when I started going through paranoid phase, these people have the ability with voice to skull, which magicians and mentalists use when they have a participant think of numbers to use in a trick, and what they're really doing is they're sending that via microwaves. And this is a real thing. It's been around for 50 years. Magicians and mentalists use this They subliminally broadcast, and it doesn't have to be subliminal. It can be very audible, as have experienced for the past 2.5 years and beyond. And but they can subliminally transmit via microwaves the numbers or whatever words or whatever, and it's indistinguishable. It's indistinguishable from thought, and that's what I believe they're using on me and other people. And it can also manipulate the words that come out of your mouth or other people's mouths. So when people start dropping buzzwords, it makes the victim go into a suspicious or paranoid cycle, because it makes the victim think, oh, they're in on it. They're mentioning these buzzwords like infrared and bees, and it's a sting operation. Buzz, you're going to get stung. And I just wanted to take the extra time to talk about that, because I had been suspicious a little bit of Dr. Lambeth for a little bit, but I knew like he wasn't like a bad person, but like I was like, why is he mentioning those keywords? Like, how would, like, you don't, infrared and bees and overlay. And this was at a time when there were hardly any buzzwords between me and the Gangstalking terrorist group. And it made me think, like, is he, what is going on here? Like, I really don't know what's going on. I don't really know like why people do this, and or what this is about. And it seems to involve other people. They can also do it with strangers as well. And then you suspect that strangers in on it, and you suspect family members too. And that's just them planting things in other people, and other people are unaware of it. And then the victim starts being paranoid, and then that makes them seem more crazy when they voice those suspicions or act in that way towards that person, more distrustful and whatever, that makes the victim appear to others as more crazy and paranoid and delusional. And that's what they have done to me in the past. And so now that I've taken the extra time to talk about that, and the brain fog, which I believe Dr. Lambeth was in heavily that day, and a few times, and the few times before that and after that, I believe that they've affected him. When I told him, like, you didn't do the cancer screening test that I asked you to, and you didn't do the hepatitis C test that I'd asked you to add on to the lab order. And he said, well, now we have an in-house lab next door that we can use, so we can just draw your blood here instead of sending you out to the reference lab like we did before. And I was like, okay, that's fine. So we went next door. It was just a walk down the hallway, and it was even like, I don't know, it was like 20 feet tops to like it's kind of like a cubicle in the other office area. And it was connected via the same hallway that the patient rooms were in. And there was a Hispanic woman there. She seemed nice, and she started taking blood from my right arm. And I'm a very easy person to get blood from. Very easy. They just usually pop me right here, and I've been stuck in other places, but like that is like I don't think I've ever had anybody miss a vein, or anyone. I don't think I've ever had anyone have difficulty getting blood from me that was an experienced phlebotomist or a nurse or whatever. So she didn't seem to have a problem. She got the big vein right there and was taking blood, and then she stopped. And I thought she said, "Oh, I didn't get any. Let me get some help, or let me go over here and do something, or get someone." And I was like, okay. And then I looked down, and I'd seen that she did take blood, and it was enough blood. If they only needed one vial, which is the case, turned out to be the case, then she had enough blood to do a lab test on. But I was like, I didn't really think anything of it at the time. I wasn't in a paranoid mood. I was like, well, maybe she lost the vein, and she said she didn't get enough. So I didn't think anything of it. And she brought this white woman in who was older than her. And the Hispanic woman sits back down on my right hand side, and and this arm had already clotted by then, so I didn't even need a Band-Aid for it. And then the white woman sits down right here. I'm in one of those chairs, where you with the arms, are down here, that you might be familiar with if you've had your blood taken at a lab or clinic. And so the other lady sat down, and she took this ridiculously sized needle. And I don't even know if it was sterile, but it looked like a needle. I joke about how it looked like it was a needle from like 1980 1985 or 1965 or something like that. It was not a needle that anyone would ever use to draw blood from in this day and age. It was too big. It was not appropriate. It was like a weird, I think it was a yellow color, but I'm not sure about that. It was big, both the syringe part and the needle part. And it's not a needle that they would ever use nowadays for taking blood. It was just a big needle with syringe. It was like, it looked like a very old school needle. And I was like, huh. So she takes that and she sits down and she goes, I'm going to describe how quickly she did this, because it's very hard to get people to believe that you were assaulted with a needle at a doctor's office. But that's exactly what happened with me. It would never happen to anyone in their entire life. And this involved 2 staff members, which is very important because even one bitchy person wouldn't do this to anyone without any reason. Even if they're a bitchy person dealing with an asshole patient. I'm not an asshole patient. I was very, very nice. I don't even know these ladies. I don't think I'd ever seen them before there. And she took the needle and she went right. And she hit me right here too. She went, and I mean, like, that's how quick it was. That's how quick the release was. She didn't inject anything. She didn't draw any blood. She just went like that. Like, and she smiled at me like this. Like, and a very, I took it as a blatant, spiteful smile. And I was just in shock. And then both of the ladies were looking at each other, smiling in a creepy way. And all I needed was, don't even think I needed a Band-Aid on this arm. At the most, all I needed was a single Band-Aid for this arm. This one arm, I caught quickly. I don't usually have to keep the bandage on after a lab. But they wrapped me in excessive medical tape in a sloppy manner. And so I left the office, and then the voices started up, and they were like, you're like, they were trying to make me feel like a street junkie. Not that those people deserved to be treated badly either, but they were demoralizing me. And I was in shock, so I didn't confront the ladies at the time. And, but I left the office feeling angry, confused, sad, hurt. I was demoralized. I went on a walking, and then I walked, and this is the Red River Family Practices by St. David's near 30th and IH 35. So I walked from around 30th Street and IH 35, roughly on Red River, actually. I walked to the Wendy's by the HEB at Hancock Center, and that's like, I don't know, around, if it were a street number, I think it would be like around 40th Street, I think, or 45th Street, or something like that. 40th Street, roughly. And and then I got something to eat at Wendy's, and then I walked back, and then I eventually called a Lyft, I think, to go back to the apartment. But I was pretty furious, and then but I was also confused. And when I confronted, and it took me like 2 or 3 visits with Dr. Lambeth, and I was like, I told him about it, and he's like, well, maybe they're just being a bitch. And I'm like, nobody would ever do that. And I'm like, you don't think that all these weird things that are happening to me, you don't think that this is important, because that would never happen to anyone. Like, who would, like, no one just stabs someone with a needle for no reason. Like, someone put them up to doing that, and it involved 2 people, and it wasn't just stabbing. Like, the lady lied to me, and I didn't tell them about the release of healthcare information. But when the incident happened, I was like, that's how they got the information. Now, it could have involved another staff member, but like, I don't want to be a paranoid person or think the worst of things. So the simplest solution, it was one or both of those ladies that released that information to them. And that's a federal crime. That's a HIPAA violation, releasing someone's healthcare information. And that's the most egregious one that they've done. I think they have 4 categories, and that's like a category 4. And so that's subject to prison time by itself, and a hefty fine. And then all those other events happened when I got evicted from the Grove because it's nonsense. And then eventually I got arrested in September of that same year, and the cops planted drugs on me, and I was in that slow speed car chase because I just wanted the cops to leave me alone. And they did plant drugs on me. I did not have any drugs on me at the time. And thankfully they dropped that charge. Like, oh, thanks, you dropped the charge that was a false charge to begin with. Oh, thank you so much. And I'm pleading to something that was because of this nonsense anyway. And I'm pleading to other things that I didn't do, because if I don't plead to it, I'm going to be stuck in jail for several more months. Um, so, uh, and eventually when I had a court date in July, right before I got evicted from the Grove, like right before I got evicted, my dad and sister went with me to the doctor's office, and my dad actually went into the exam room. And at the time I was like 42 at the time. And I'm like, it's weird having my dad in there, but he did witness my doctor saying that like the little bit of amount of meth that I was doing occasionally to like escape from this nonsense, didn't cause this nonsense. Sometimes I used it to escape this nonsense, and sometimes I was coerced into doing so because they would torture me, and then they would say, I got got more blatant later, but they basically did this, and then they would stop if I did use something, and then I would feel better anyway because of it, but they got into this pattern of doing that, and then they would do something with the cops. The cops would do something 1 or 2 days after that, so then it would show up in a urine test afterwards. But the sad thing about this event is I told the truth about it. My dad didn't believe me. And he was like, well, maybe they took labs from the second blood draw. And I'm like, Dad, there wasn't a second blood draw. And then I went to the jail on those false charges. And then I went, well, they attempted evading was technically what I was doing, but I was trying to get away from the cops, or whoever these people are that the cops are helping. And I found out, the important thing with my dad being there is he witnessed the doctor telling me that like meth could not cause schizophrenia, and we didn't get to the pain and other stuff nonsense, which was happening, but it wasn't as bad as it is now. And then my dad I was so disappointed in my dad at the time, and in Dr. Lambeth. I was just so disappointed in them because I'm like, I was assaulted. And I know it's seemingly small because they're like, well, you're stuck with the needle. You got stuck with the needle anyway, so they gave you an extra stick. I mean, they didn't say that, but it's like, what's the harm? And it's like, it's not just about that. First of all, it was violating. It was an assault. It was uncalled for. It was unethical, highly unethical. But then also the release of healthcare information, which I didn't really talk about at the time with them. But I've lost all my trust in healthcare, because I can't trust my lab results. Like my lab results for syphilis or whatever are going all over the place. And if I go to one lab, it's like, it seems normal. It seems like things are going down when I was treated for that. And I don't even know if I had it. But I assumed that I did. I'm not trying to be paranoid. But then I went to another lab, and the labs are going up. And I'm like, well, if they can get 2 people from a family practice that have been going to for 17 years to do what they did and to release this information to them, and all these other people that lied in police reports, police officers and EMT staff that did things wrong and lied in their reports, and then medical doctors that lied in reports or took information from the officers or EMT that were lies, and then assumed that they were true and put them into my medical documents. I've got so much information in my medical documents that's not even true. And this incident, it shattered my faith or my trust in any healthcare while this is going on, because I'm like, there's no point in getting my labs done, because it's like, for anything, because I can't trust the results. And I'm not being a paranoid person about that. I'm being technically appropriate about that, because it's like, it doesn't matter what the lab results are, because I have labs that say things that is virtually impossible or highly improbable. And because they can get these people, these henchmen, as I call them, who are the dumbest people in the world, along with these people to begin with, because right after they do that, or when they do that, when these 2 ladies do this, and I'm going to link this to Red River Family Practices page. Like I'm going to write reviews on this and other pages. And I'm going to link them to this video. So you 2 ladies at Red River Family Practice, you're going to regret what you did to me. And I don't mean that as a threat, as like I'm coming after you, because I'm not that type of person. But I wanted to confront you directly, but Dr. Lambeth wouldn't give me your names. I wish he had. And at least I could have those names and have you privately investigated, but I guess I can have that done anyway. But then my dad sort of dropped out of that, or he was never there to begin with for that help that I desperately needed him for. But when you do that, like in Gavin at the Grove as well, and the maintenance guy at the Grove, uh, when you guys and Jason and Jason's friends, Jason Barrientos and friends or acquaintances, like Fast Mike and Mulatto Boy is what we nicknamed you, or they nicknamed you, or I nicknamed you. Not meaning that in a bad way, but you're a bad person. So it's not because we call you that, but you're a horrible human being anyway. But when you guys do that, what you don't realize is you think you're in on some sort of prank thing, or like you get some, I don't know what, you get a charge dropped, or I don't know if they're putting pressure on you. But what's stupid about that is that they are putting pressure on you to do something like that in a bad way, and you feel like you were forced into doing that. If you just told the truth, it's like you and me, it's like, boom, this case would have been solved like over 2 years ago. And with this incident, it happened like almost 2 years ago. And because you didn't do the right thing, it's caused me an additional 2 years of suffering. Who knows how much longer this is going to go on for. But when you do that, you are one of a very few people that the victim, like in my case, that I know did something wrong. And in other cases, like I suspected that you did something wrong. It's like, and like with this nonsense, like they can manipulate your senses, your hearing, your vision, and other things. So like you have to be beyond the normal scrutiny that you normally would as a victim or eyewitness, like beyond like it's like you almost can't you trust what you saw sometimes, or think happened, because they can manipulate you. So but in other cases, when people did that, like at Red River, like you did something wrong. Like that could not be interpreted as anything else as you did a highly unethical, illegal thing. Releasing the healthcare information is a HIPAA violation, and it's a federal crime. It's subject to prison time for what you did. It's not a mistake of releasing information. You maliciously released information that was used against me, and you meant to do that, and you knew that you were doing the wrong thing. It wasn't a mistake. You intentionally did that, and you intentionally targeted me when you did that because they asked you to. But when you do that, you're one of a few people that the victim knows did something wrong and has the answers, and that could help them by telling the truth to the police and to the victim themselves. Like to me, like you could have like told me, you could have confessed. And it turns out that they did confess. Once I got out of jail in February of 2018, and I think around April, I went back to Red River to get, since I'm applying for disability, I'm like, well, I'm going to look schizophrenic on paper, so let me apply for disability anyway, because I'm definitely disabled. And it's man-made, but it's still a disability. And I'm like, I'm just going to go for that disability. I'm just going to claim schizophrenia or schizoid affective disorder along with the fibromyalgia or whatever nonsense. And because that's what it is, even though it's not that, but it's no different than that. It's probably worse than that. But you leave the victim in a desperate place. And this also goes out to you, Austin Police Department and Maynard Police Department and Travis County Sheriff's Department. When you guys do not contact the victim back, and to the detectives and your supervisors going all the way up, when you write in your report, and Detective Joseph Hernandez, you wrote in your report that I was an emotionally disturbed individual or emotionally disturbed person, emotionally EDP or something like that, or EDI or something like that. And first of all, I'm disturbed from this stuff that's going on, and it doesn't matter if I was mentally ill. Mentally ill people still deserve a call back, and they don't deserve to be victims. And they're less likely to report things anyway because of that stigma and because of not sometimes understanding what's going on with them, especially with this. A lot of people don't know that they're victims, or they don't understand it because these people pretend to be God and they pretend to be other things. But Brandon Sheffy, is that who the detective is on this case, I believe? That's who I said. And Detective Joseph Hernandez and the other detectives on this, and to the police chiefs and the sheriff. I've emailed you guys and called you probably about 150 times, maybe close to 200. I'm not sure. Maybe 200 pretty soon. Not one of you contacted me back. And the sad thing about this is these victims confessed. I found out in April of last year that they confessed. They didn't confess to the release of healthcare information, to my knowledge, but they confessed and corroborated my statements. And Dr. Lambeth, and they were still working there, which I was like, what the hell is going on? They're still working there after this incident? This is a fireable offense. Like, this is like, what are you talking about? Why are they still working here? Like, I don't understand that. And Dr. Lambeth's like he's not the person that fires people, but I think there's an office manager there. And immediately after that, and again, to the henchmen and to APD, MPD, and TCS, as I call Travis County Sheriff's Department, when you don't tell the truth and when you don't call the victim back, you put the victim in a very desperate situation because they need answers. And like, these people know the truth. And these people, the core group, which I believe is police, they actually they strongly urge and try to manipulate. And it wouldn't require much manipulation at all for most people. Like, if I was a more aggressive person, I'm a very passive, I'm, I guess, a pacifist. I've never thrown a punch on anyone in my entire life. I've never needed to. When you do that, like, if I was a more aggressive person, a more unhinged person, even without their input or their manipulation or their further torture, another individual would likely retaliate against you and come back for revenge and possibly kill you and those around you. And that's important to note. And it's important to note that I am not saying that I would do something like that. I am mentioning that because that is a normal, natural, and understandable reaction to a victim that would be more aggressive than me, or even me in another timeline with just, on just random chance circumstances. Because the APD did not call me back. Travis County Sheriff's Department did not call me back or follow up on things in jail. Even though there are multiple witnesses and victims that went on record in writing and were questioned in person and gave supporting statements, and y'all did nothing. Manor Police Department, you did nothing. You have police officers continuously doing the wrong thing. And you have other officers, or whoever these people are that the officers are helping, that then tell the victim to go after the people that helped them fuck the victims over, or who helped fuck with them after they got fucked over. So it's like, you have police officers, if that's who they are, which I'm assuming is the simplest explanation. So you have APD officers and Travis County Sheriff's officers doing this, and Manor police officers apparently doing this knowingly. And so then some of the officers are put up to being henchmen and pulling pranks and civilians and helping the police officers out, and seemingly happy to do so and enjoy doing so and get some sort of short-term benefit out of it, a small short-term benefit out of it. And then something that would already be a risk with a lot of people anyway, but turns out to be much more high risk with these people, then you have APD officers or whoever these people are, then push the victim to escalating this to a very bad situation. Like, these people, and it's not coming from here, and even if it was coming from here, psychiatrists and medical staff, just because I hear it does not mean I'm going to do it. Which is true for most schizophrenic people anyway. Most schizophrenic people are not dangerous. And I'm not schizophrenic anyway. But they then tell the victim to go kill or hurt the people that helped fuck them over. And then other officers that didn't know what was going on, some behaving badly still, and then others that just didn't know what was going on, even though they probably should have. In some situations, maybe not so in other situations, they then push them to kill those other officers. So you're helping your own officers, your brothers and sister officers. You're helping them fuck people over, not knowing, or maybe you do know and you don't care, you don't think it's going to happen, not knowing that they then tell the victim to retaliate against you. And you're like the only person or one of a few people that the victim knows is in on it or appears to be in on it. So, and they also have told the victim to do things like go downtown and blow up downtown central booking, which I would never do. And I wouldn't even know how to do it, even if I wanted to. So it's like, and my dad thinks that I would do something like that or intended to do something like that. And I immediately corrected him on that. I'm so disappointed in my sister Robin for sharing a text with him that was taken out of context. And I was trying to tell her at the time while I was being attacked, like, these motherfuckers are telling people or telling me they're trying to push me to doing something that I would never do. And it's just so preposterous that, like, I can't get help from the police or sheriff's departments, even though it's their officers or people that their officers are helping. And then in turn, they're trying to push me into killing their own officers and other civilians, innocent ones as well, like blowing up downtown central booking or doing a gunman situation. And these people told me, we're going to Arlington Road you. And we're going to, at the time that there was the Austin bomber, a few months later, they told me they were going to frame me as the Austin bomber. And that really scared me because they framed me for other things. And it's like, oh my God. Like, and for one thing, like maybe the Austin bomber was a victim of this and pushed people. It makes me re-question all school shootings. It makes me re-question all mass shootings or bombs, other acts of terrorism, because it makes me wonder if those people were manipulated into doing that subliminally or not so subliminally by these motherfuckers, which is the government, local and or federal, and with help from civilians as well. But it's so fucking stupid because right after I found out, 2 weeks later or a month later that they confess, or no, in April, when I found out, I immediately texted my dad. And I'm so disappointed in him because I'd already corrected him multiple times on what happened. He's like, well, maybe it didn't happen the way you think it happened. And I'm like, there's nothing wrong with my memory. I have no problem with my memory. And I wasn't high and I wasn't doing drugs to the amount that he thought it was. It was like once a week when this shit would build up, then I would do it. And it wasn't pleasant, but it kept me from going crazy and it kept me from wanting to kill someone, which is what these people drive you to do, which is another point to make when you when you have victims of assault or violent situations, when they're being attacked or when they're being harmed by someone else or when they're being wronged. You really shouldn't ask that question, are you thinking about hurting yourself or anybody else? For one thing, you don't treat people right when they answer yes to if they're thinking of hurting themselves, which I have never done, but I've been treated like someone who would or was thinking about it. And in turn, that was everyone did the completely wrong thing. It put me in a situation time and time again in which I was closer to being a person that would want to hurt them, to kill themselves or end their life. I have not been brought to that point, but I've been brought because I don't believe in an afterlife and I don't want to end existence. But I've been brought to the point of where I think other people, and I don't say this in a way where I think those other people are weaker or cowards, because I don't think suicide is a coward's way out unless you're a coward already and you're choosing suicide because you don't want to face the music for what you did or make things right, or you don't want to, it's your way of escaping retribution, punishment, justice. That's a coward. But people that are suffering, that physical and or mental pain, it is not a coward's way out to kill yourself. And it's then Tim said that he thought people were cowards that kill themselves, and I find that very offensive because it's not. That's a horrible, and maybe for some people it's like they're overreacting and they do a fake suicide attempt, or maybe it's real, maybe it's a cry for help. But in situations where people really do want to kill themselves and they try, and succeed or not, it is not a coward's way out. And I don't, my father's never going to watch this video anyway. He doesn't believe me anyway. He doesn't subscribe to this channel, and he doesn't watch these videos anyway, even though I've sent him like 150 or 200 emails, which I'm so disappointed in him for not watching them, or watching them in a way that was not heavily scrutinizing it or believing what I was trying to tell him or listening to what I was saying. But his reaction to this incident has been such a disappointment and such a letdown. And other people's reactions to it have been a disappointment as well, especially Dr. Lambeth and the police. I'm like, you have 2 suspects confessed. So I called them as I walked out of the doctor's office. I literally called them from the lobby of the building of my doctor's office. And I said, I sent all the way up to, I think at the time, I took it all the way up to the lieutenant. Commander. I think our fortune. I believe I even left a message for him that day. If not, it was very soon after, from Tom's house. Within a few days after that, I believe. You can check the communications log. But I definitely escalated up to Lieutenant Christine Chomont, and you didn't call me back. So you have 2 victims that have confessed, and every time the mental health cops call me, and they're like, and I'm like, I don't need help from you guys. Like, what are you going to do? Like, I need this to stop. And and I'm disappointed in them too, because I'm like, this is common sense. How can you say that there's no evidence to investigate this case? I gave you a suspect that was involved that would have led you to this Gangstalking group that I have proof of being a receipt of my stolen phone and hacking my Google account, or damning evidence. The only more evidence you could ever have in a stolen phone or hacking case is if you actually had video recording of a person doing that, which would be rare anyway. So, but I actually had proof of a log showing that his email address was put in. I even linked it to his social profiles. It said this email address links to this profile and this profile and this profile, this profile, and that appears to be the guy in 301. And he had an ankle monitor on the time. It would have taken you less than an hour from your lazy ass butt, sitting in whatever detective headquarters you are, whatever area in the city you are, Detective Hernandez and the rest of you, to get your ass from your seat where you're sitting in at your cubicle or desk or whatever to his hotel room or wherever he was staying at the time. You could have found him very easily. You could have had a confession in less than an hour from where your lazy ass butt is normally at your desk. You horrible, lazy, stupid detectives and supervisors. And you could have ended my suffering 2 years ago, or almost 2 years ago. But you didn't respond. And I even said in voice messages to APD, I'm sure that, and I was like, I'm sure we are on the same page, and that we both agree that you don't want this that we don't want to put the victim or me in a situation that they would want to resort to self-help, as that could escalate into something very badly. And I think we can both align to the fact that APD would be the more appropriate entity to handle this, because you need to get the confession anyway on record, and you're also more likely to get a successful confession, and even though they already confessed, and you're also more likely to avoid a situation that could escalate into something very nasty, which these people heavily promote or promoted over and over and over again. They literally tried to talk me into, I wouldn't do it, but I'm saying they literally tried to talk me into going to the doctor's office and stabbing everyone or shooting everyone. They literally did that over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And I swear to God, if any psychologists or doctors or police take this video and manipulate these words and try to put me on a POED or any other type of detainment, you will regret it. And that is a threat, because that is a threat, because you've done that to me time and time again. And I'm telling you, I'm not threatening anyone. I'm telling you that these people threatened you guys. They have risked your lives. I'm the victim in this. And by me reporting the truth, and even if these were schizophrenic voices, which they are not, and I've proven to you guys why they're not and how they're not. And there have been other victims and witnesses that I've listed as well. And I don't have supernatural powers of ESP. And I've come down with 10 other diseases at the same time. And schizophrenia doesn't happen at 41, 42, 43 anyway. It happens at 15 to 20, maybe 25 years old. After that, it does not happen. And in regards to, and if you keep jumping to schizophrenia, you're totally ignoring everything else. My camera evidence, my video and photos that I have, even though you can't make all of it out. The fact is that I had a Note 7 and then an S8 and then a Note 8 camera. Even in low light, it takes very good videos and photos. It shouldn't be going blah, 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 blah. And you have 2 suspects that have confessed. You're the laziest, most corrupt. Well, I can't say you're the most corrupt that I know, because like you're like the only police and sheriff's department I've ever really interacted with, and the Maynard police as well, and the constable's office as well, apparently, with Sketchy Allen, who did the wrong thing too and lied to the police too. But to my dad and Alan, which they're not going to watch this anyway, but like you guys. Like, I can't believe the way that you responded to some of these things. And I'm so hurt by it. And even after the doctor's office, after I called the detective and his sergeant and his lieutenant and her commander, and then eventually the assistant chief, and then the police chief, and the other detectives, and the sheriff, and the city Maynard police and their police chief, and my dad and my friend Dom and other people. But like, I immediately called you guys and emailed you guys, and I texted my dad too. And I said, they corroborated what I said. What I said is completely correct. And my dad did not respond to that. He didn't say, I'm sorry that I didn't believe you. He didn't say, well, we should investigate why they did that. Maybe that is related to the crazy nonsense that you're going through, along with everything else that you said, which maybe you're telling the truth on all of it as well, which, I don't lie. I told the truth on everything on that. And I guarantee you that that document is 99% correct. And there may be some discrepancies that I may have some things wrong, but I try not to exaggerate. I try to tell exactly what happened. I try not to put too much opinion in there, or paint it that way. I try to tell exactly what happened and just leave it at that, and try to let the police do their job and sheriff's department do their job, which they have not done at all. Detective Joseph Hernandez said emotionally disturbed person. Like, what if I was an emotionally disturbed person and this still happened to me? You're saying emotionally disturbed people can be assaulted and you would never investigate their cases? And to Alan Goodwin on the stolen phone and hacked Google account, you were like, well, Detective Hernandez handles hacking and then I handle like the phone. So like, and I'm sorry about you lost your phone. Like, oh my God, like, I'm so sorry. Like, it's not about the phone. He knew these people, and he knew people that knew these people. And I have proof of it. So it's like, how much more proof do you normally need? It would take you less than an hour of your time to get to him and to arrest him. Maybe not now, because he doesn't probably have an ankle monitor on unless he went back into the system. So it might be a little bit harder tracking him down, but maybe not. But these 2 ladies still worked and may still work at Red River Family Practice and confessed. And that's a federal crime, what they did as well, aside from the assault. And you guys have let me suffer an additional almost 2 years because you're despicable, corrupt, or lazy and stupid people. And you're stupid. You're stupid in either way. And I don't like calling you stupid. I don't normally call people stupid, but I'm calling you that because whether you're corrupt or not, like, I have proof of all of this. I have other victims and witnesses. These 2 girls confessed. And I'm going to tell you girls about our family practice. I'm going to link this, and I hope you guys eventually see this video. You better tell the truth, and you better contact me, and you better contact the police and confess before we get to you. And that's not a threat. It's like, I'm coming after you, but I'm telling you, this story is coming out. And I'm telling you that, like, I'm not going to hurt you, But when people find out what you and other people did to help these people and what these people did, which you may or may not know the full story about that, like people are going to come after you with the torches and pitchforks, and it's not going to be safe for you, and it's not going to be safe, and your reputation's going to be ruined anyway. And there's nothing gained by not telling the truth. It just makes things worse. You think you're not going to get caught, you are caught. Like, you're going to get caught. Just because nothing's happening to you now doesn't mean nothing's going to happen to you tomorrow. More people know now than knew yesterday. More people will know tomorrow than knew today. And I may not have like 1 million people subscribed to this YouTube account, but the truth is coming out. And you did tell the truth. But then, like, why didn't you make it right? Like, and Dr. Lambeth, why did you not? Like, I'm happy that you're willing to talk to the police about that, but then the police won't talk to you. So it's like, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to, like, that's why it's stupid to do what you did, because you two ladies at Road River Family Practice, you put yourselves, first of all, you put me in further jeopardy. I mean, I could have killed myself by now because of what I've gone through. I could have been killed by other people. These people threaten to kill me all the time. And my dog. And they torture and terrorize me every single day. It's a nightmare. It's the worst thing I think anyone will have ever gone through, aside from like the Holocaust. And like, we're not going to argue which one's worse. But you're going to be known for what you did. And whatever you got out of it, it's like, why would you ever help someone that's not a win-win? And they're trying to manipulate the words coming out of my mouth. I don't even know how much of this has been chosen by them. But anytime I'm doing like this, I'm like, and I say a word or something, and you can tell like I'm saying that because they're suggesting words to say. And sometimes they do it very audibly before I say them. And I'm like, do I say it? Do I choose a different word? Or do I just say that word anyway? Did they pick that word for me, or did we both pick that word? It's so fucking annoying and stupid. And, but all of you are so fucking stupid and horrible people, and lazy and disrespectful. And like, I would never treat a human being the way that any of you treated me. And, that was primarily meant for the henchmen and for the police and sheriff's department who have people involved with it. And I'm not suggesting that anyone that was a detective is corrupt themselves, but you have corrupt officers, and these people can manipulate people to, like, have a certain opinion on things, or they can sort of manipulate to a certain degree. But how can you ignore the fact that I have proof of my stolen phone and hacked Google account? I have other victims and witnesses. Other people have gone on record in writing and in person with the sergeant from Travis County Sheriff's Department. How can you ignore that? There's 2 suspects that confessed to assaulting me. Arrest them for that. Not one of you has called me back on any of these crimes that have happened to me. Like, it does not make sense that while going through this torture and terrorism, that like at the same time, I just happen to meet all these sketchy officers and civilians that just happen, that are unrelated to these people doing these things to me, like in such concentration and in oddness and bizarreness, and in like that would never happen to someone normally, and like it's happening to me. Like, it is not a coincidence that I'm going through that and this at the same time. That's just totally unfeasible, irrational, and not any of you contacted me back. And even after I stressed, like, I do not want to resort to self-help, which I'm still not going to, but it's like, what happens if something happens? Then it's like, I need to get answers. What do? They have answers. I have to go get answers from them, but I can't be the one going to do it because I'm not a detective. But I still need those answers. I still need this resolved. I still need to get these people need to be stopped. You put me in an impossible situation, and I just sit here and suffer because of you fucking idiots. Like, and I certainly hope that when you hear this, not that any of the detectives or the police chiefs are going to be watching this video, or my dad, or anyone else. It's like, I'm giving up on you even doing that. I probably won't even send you a link to this video. not at least to my family anymore. Like, I've just given up on you guys. I hate the fact that I've been brought to the point of even saying that. I don't even like saying that. But like I have been so quiet on how much you've hurt me and how much, like, even if I was a crazy person with schizophrenia, like, Dad, how do you expect, like, if you heard what I hear 24/7 and feel what I feel 24/7, like, how the fuck can you get anything done? And yet I'm still writing this thing up and still trying to like get action taken on this. Like, how am I supposed to find an apartment, especially with a record that these guys have given me, or even if I got it for myself? And then you change it and you're like, oh no, you can't get an apartment by yourself, and then you better get a cheap room with someone. It's like, and then you bitch about the fucking storage fees. And I'm like, well, if I got the fucking apartment that I wanted to at the place I found out that was available and was willing to work with me, even with my record, and I could have moved into, like, I could have eliminated my storage. And then, like, if you take the storage off the rent, and also from the hotel hopping and taking a longer time finding a place, it's like, it costs less than if I just got an apartment by myself again. But then you're like, $1,200 a month, this seems expensive. Well, they also had cheaper apartments, but I might not have been able to eliminate my storage entirely, but I could have reduced it or eventually eliminated it. But like, $1,200 was like the most expensive one they had, I think. And that was like the one that would have immediately eliminated storage. And so, like, you're still paying $600 a month, and then like you pay like $400 a week for a motel for a few months. And then it's like, you average it out. And Dad, you don't pay $36,000 a year on me. I mean, like, you exaggerate on that. Your math is like not there. And you didn't spend more on me now than you would have on rehab. Maybe by now, but when you told me that, when I was in jail or after I got out of jail, that was a fucking lie. You're fucking wrong on that. I'm sorry. But like no, it would have been way more expensive to send me to rehab and blah, 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 than like the commissary and like, I don't even know. Like, you weren't even paying for a hotel. I think you reimbursed Tom a few times eventually after a few months after I got out of jail at the time. But that was a complete like bullshit thing too. And like, I told you, like, right after Red River Family Practice, and I told the cops, they confessed. They corroborated what I'm saying. And then even now to this day, like, not too long ago, you were like, just because you says it happened doesn't mean it happened that way. Or you said something to that effect. Like, that was so insulting. That was so disrespectful. That was so factually incorrect. That was so wrong on so many levels. And yet, like, I have to still depend on you for money. And it's like, when I don't have to depend on you for money anymore, it's like, you've hurt me so much. And it's like, you treat me like a bad person. And it's like, you could have helped me in my suffering so long ago, and now I'm still suffering. It's like, you're partially at fault for that. And that's what this incident happened. So I know it's a lengthy video, more so than I did in other ones, but it's very important because these two suspects, I hope that the FBI will question them. I hope that they'll be truthful as they were with the office manager and or Dr. Lambeth, and that will lead us to this Gangstalking group. And like, it will, if they investigate it. Now, these people keep saying, well, he's in on it with us, and I'm not a paranoid person, or we can manipulate him into thinking that you're just a crazy person and to not investigating the case further, which maybe they did to the detectives. But I don't think so. And I think that people know about this anyway. And I kind of think, I don't think they know that they know, but I think they think they're still getting away with it, and it doesn't really matter. And I think that they're putting those words in my mouth, and it doesn't matter, because it's like, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter what I think on it. But like, why would that shouldn't change how you behave. You should be a better person. Like, all of you should be better people. That includes my family, my friends, my ex-colleagues, my ex-friends, my ex-family. Like, I've been believed and treated more kindly and with more respect by complete strangers that were staying at the same hotel or at the hospital than any of you guys. And the way that you've treated me has done nothing but push me further to the type of person that would want to hurt themselves or end their life or hurt other people. And I'm not doing that. But that doesn't mean that I want to be pushed further towards that point and to suffer further. And everything that you have responded to on everything for the past 2.5 years has been basically almost the completely wrong thing to do. And you don't treat a crazy person that way. You don't treat a victim that way. You don't treat a crazy. And I'm not a drug addict, and I wasn't a drug addict. And I wasn't using to anywhere to the degree that you thought I was. And because I'm being honest about using occasionally to escape this nonsense, it didn't cause this nonsense, but you think it did, which is completely wrong. And I'm not wrong on that. That's factually correct. It actually helped me in the situations, with the exception of it showed up in urine tests because 2 days later, it's like they're fucking with me and they get me taken to a hospital, even though they shouldn't have taken me to a hospital to begin with, knowing that I was being tortured. Or even not knowing I was being tortured and shouldn't have taken me anyway. But yeah, that will be a different video. I'm talking to them. That's the only time I've ever talked to them in the past few months. Aside from telling them to be quiet or shut up. But I'm just so disappointed in everyone in my life. And I'm such a good person, and I'm highly ethical. I don't hurt other people. I don't take from other people. I'm not a criminal. Now I'm a felon. I've been failed by every single person in my life. And the only other people, except from Ray treated me very nicely when he saw me. He said very wonderful things about me, and Leo was very nice to let me stay here at his house in Wasaco, near McAllen, in the valley. Everyone else, like, even if you were nice to me, you still didn't treat this the way that you should have treated it, and you didn't listen to me, and you caused me more pain. You delayed my disability, and then you blamed me for my delaying disabilities because of like one thing that I did that's understandable, of what I'm going through, and really shouldn't have been a deciding factor in it, but it was. But you guys also caused me months and months of delays in what you guys didn't do and did do. And then you treat me like a horrible human being. And then I'm so disappointed in all of you. I'm so hurt by all of you. And that should really go in another video, or not a video at all. But that's it for this incident, Red River Family Practice. So you two ladies at Red River Family Practice, and any other staff that were involved, hopefully there weren't, you're going to get what's coming to you. And that's not a threat of me against you. That's just an outcome that's going to happen, because when people find out about this, and to the police and sheriff's department, this is going to be a media shitstorm, and people are going to come after you and retaliate like this. People are going to be so disgusted and horrified by what happened to me and other people. And for all you stupid henchmen, like, why would you align yourself to someone that has a lose-lose mentality, or they say has a win-lose mentality, but they want to win, but they want other people to lose, and they throw you under the bus too? Like, that's the dumbest thing in the world. It's dumb for them too, because they don't think it'll ever come back on them, which maybe they'll get away with it for a while, but not forever. And it's like, well, it's worth it because then I get to torture you more, even if you do get caught in a few years, or 10 to 20 or 30 years. Then at least I still get that time, and then it'll be older, and it won't matter if I get the worst fate in the world, or a punishment worse than death. It's like, you don't really mean that. You say that, but like, you think you can get away with it forever, and you can't. That's the dumbest thing in the world, to think that you can. And for you to put it off as if someone else like that smokes, I guess is what they're suggesting, knowing that the consequences will eventually come and get you, but you still do it anyway. That may be what it is too. Out of sight, out of mind is what they're suggesting as well. But like, these are the dumbest people in the whole fucking world, and to help them, you're just as dumb, or even dumber. Who knows? Like, you've gotten a whole lot more out of life for telling the truth, for refusing to do what they wanted you to do anyway, and for telling the truth, or eventually telling the truth. The longer you wait, the worse it's going to be for you and everyone else, including me, including you, including everyone, including everyone, literally. And it won't be better for anyone. And they keep going, well, you get more money out of it. No, there's a cap at some point, and it's not about the money. It has nothing to do with that. But hey, you would have gotten possibly money or reward, or not go to jail for the rest of your life, or not get a punishment worse than death, or not get the mob with pitchforks and torches come after you. And then the reputation, I guess, if you don't care about your reputation, it's one thing, but I'm telling the truth, so I'm telling the truth about you guys. And once I find out your names, I'm going to put them in this video, and I'm going to put them in every single doctor review site I can find, and in your social media sites, I'm going to put it on there too, because you deserve it. You deserve everything that's coming to you. And I tried to do my best to make this a win-win situation for everyone, and the best outcome ever. And these people just keep bringing down, and you guys keep ruining the world. And that's the dumbest thing in the entire world. Why would you want to ruin the world? Why would you want to hurt someone else? Why would you want? It just doesn't make any sense.